Zach Waters of the Zach Waters Band. How's it going, man?
Good, man. Good, good. Thank you for having me on. Um, we're trying to kind of go as ZWB. That's the name of the band.
All right, man. So that's that kind of transition that you've kind of settled into as you're continuing with with your goings on. I mean, obviously you have your album out, which we'll get to in a moment, but I want to like take it back a little bit before that, if you don't mind. As you were getting going, growing up, and sort of developing your musical identity, what was that like? What was your musical environment like as you were growing up?
Um, so growing up, my mom's a really good singer, so she used to sing around the house, and my dad, he can play a little bit of guitar. He's more of like a strummer, but there was just a lot of music around the house as a child, and they used to play Jimi Hendrix and ACDC and Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd. So my parents were rockers. So I was introduced to music early, and so I started playing at an early age.
Oh, that's good, man. And kind of leading into that, what were your early musical efforts like as far as like getting involved with the local scene and joining bands and developing your chops that way?
So I mean, some of the one of the earliest things I can remember when I always played in like bands when I was in high school, and when I was probably like 15 or so, um, me and my dad, we used to go to the Folsom Hotel, which is a kind of like a music bar, just a couple towns over from where we're from. And we used to go in there, and the house band there, they used to let me kind of sit in, and that's where I got my chops. I was playing with the old guys, and I, that's kind of where I got my start playing. And then I made my first real band in high school. We were called Pilgrim. We were a five-piece rock band, and we kind of did some shows. And then about my senior year in high school is when I started the Zach Waters band, which when that came out, that was very much just like a blues rock, kind of just guitar led trio. And as the act evolved, we changed last year over to just ZWB, and that is what made the album, and it's just a rock and roll act.
I see. So in a certain sense, it's not just you now, it's integrating the two other members and you're more of a cohesive kind of thing. So back when you formed ZWB, I should say, in 2016, it was all about you at the forefront. And then talk a little bit about that, forming ZWB and incorporating the two other members, or if there were any lineup changes, kind of implementing that in the same way.
Yeah, so bringing it back to when the group started, because I had gone through the thing where you play in different bands, members come and go, and every time that would happen coming up, it was like you had to change a band name or you
Right.
can't play a certain song anymore. And I was always a consistent um, force in the music, and so naming the band after my name was at that point was purely just because I was the only consistent guy showing up. So I was
Oh
like,
man.
I'm sick of renaming things and redoing websites, and so that's where that had came from. And like I said, at that time, I was really pursuing blues, and I hadn't really grown. I guess I was still figuring out what it was I wanted the act to be, and so um, and I've been cursed with lineup changes. I mean, we're currently going through a lineup change. We're currently swapping out a drummer, and but changing to ZWB was just it ultimately it came down to the music. When we started cutting the record with Michael
Right.
Rosen and we're listening, and it was like, I don't know, this doesn't sound like a solo artist music. This sounds like a rock band,
No, not at
and
all. It sounds like not even just a rock band, but like a full-fledged band, like no nonsense. Like
Oh,
I remember I was no joke actually working out to your album as I was putting it on. I was like, man, I just got this workout bar for like 29.99 on Amazon. Got to get back into the old groove, and I was like, man, this is actually a pretty good fucking workout. But
yeah. I was gonna ask, did you have a favorite track off of the album?
um, as I look through it now on Spotify, I can tell you I did really like Shaking Hair and Hands. And then the one that's gotten the most reception is the single that you're promoting, Right Back at It, was my, that was my jam. Uh,
Okay.
not to like kind of flip flop between talking about it, but like really going into that album, like it really you really do have like that fully fledged sound, especially for a band that has only come together within the past several years. So it's awesome, man.
Oh, thank you so much.
Basically, when you were making this album, was it like your ideas as you at the forefront like a solo artist? So as the other guys came in, did they have involvement in terms of like songwriting, or was it all you?
Yeah. So on that record, things off the front half of the record, um, were songs that I had already brought to the table. But songs like, but even then, songs like "Word on the Street" and "Shaking Hair and Hands" were pretty collaborative. And I was even in the studio for Looking to Play, first track off the album. I remember asking my bass player Grayson. I remember asking him like, "Oh, I don't know about this last verse. Maybe I should change the words." So the whole thing was pretty collaborative. Even though some songs, like I said, I had brought to the table, everything was at least tweaked on by somebody. So I can't really say that I wrote all of it. Especially the back half of the album, "Hole in the Road," "Self-Made Man," "Right Back at It." "I've Had Enough." All those songs were very collaborative. Um, it was truly a group effort on the
Yeah, and
record.
when you go into more into the specifics of like selecting the tracks for the flow, I mean it does have a very nice flow to it. And I mean, surely when you are in that deep songwriting and collaborative kind of groove, um, songs aren't just songs for the sake of putting down a song and an idea, right? Like there's actual background. So if you would like go through each song off the album and talk about like your feelings about each track.
Yeah. So what's funny, you mentioned about the song order and the flow of the record. We had actually, um, all the songs we had, they were already made. And so when we were putting the record together, it was kind of like we wanted, without being too artsy about it, we kind of wanted a concept album about basically the stories of a band trying to get going. And so I don't know if you're familiar with the hero's journey. They teach
Yeah,
this, and
yeah,
it's essentially what the record is. So basically, like if I were to take it from the top of the record, like "Looking to Play," that's the call to action, right? And so that's like, here's this band looking to do something, and
right.
"Shaking Hair in Hands" and "Word on the Street" is kind of the uphill trajectory, and then we get to drinking whiskey, and we're partying, things get a little sour, and then boom, "Hole in the Road," you hit that, and that's right in the middle of the album. That's when you hit your most adversity. And then after that is "I've Had Enough." So that's you know like, "Nah, we're gonna get better than this," and then "Right Back at It," and then to "Self-Made Man." So the whole thing is basically a hero's journey of a rock band trying to make it. And when we started making the record, it was 2020, so the pandemic hit, and
Yeah,
so,
of course, all that fuckery, you know?
oh yeah, and so when we were cutting the album, that's kind of what solidified. That's the meaning we want, because we knew, like, we're not the only ones out here trying to do this, and so, if it breaks, we we want to help everyone else out and share our story.
In other words, self-made man is like you're getting back to your roots. You're getting back to like where you start out, you're fresh, up and coming, emerging, and then, you get distracted, you get kind of like you plateau, you sink down, and then self-made man is like where you shoot right back up, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's really good, man. I really like how you like put a lot of thought into the songs and like um getting back into that song right back at it. I mean, it's when I saw the lyric video, it really kind of brought me back into that sense of community and rock, which has been missing for like such a long time. Sometimes I look at it and it's like, okay, even if rock doesn't get into that big, like mainstream, like pinnacle like it was 20, 30 years ago, at least we have like tons of bands keeping it alive.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, and there's bands we look up to on the larger scale that are like bands like Greta Van Fleet and Dirty Honey and Joyous Wolf and Classes Act. Like I think that a lot of these bands have kind of opened the doors for the higher ups to be interested in rock and roll again. And for guys like us, that's all we know how to do. It works out for us.
Yeah, and speaking within that community aspect, I mean, right when you released your album, it was barely 2 weeks into January, but right after that, you were in the boardwalk with you know the Darbies and Bad Mother Nature. How was that for you?
That show was really amazing, and we handpicked those acts. The Darbies and Bad Mother Nature. They're really good, just friends to us too, and they've both seen us at the very beginnings, and so it meant a lot to have those artists on the bill with us. It meant a lot to see a big crowd. The night we had like 140 tickets sold, and that night it was storming really bad. I'm not sure where you're at in California. It was just coming down hard on us past couple weeks, and
Oh,
that night it was storming really bad. And
oh
there's
wow.
actually flash flood warnings on our way to the load-in.
Yeah,
But
well, yeah. I'm
to
actually
see everyone,
yeah, I'm actually in Florida, but I get what you mean. So
you get it,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So what were you saying about what you were going through at that time?
Well, it was just there was a lot of adversity in the show, but the show was a massive success, and a, I mean the big thing was just a lot of people had fun. We
Right.
sold a lot of records that
Right.
night, and so it was just a really good night. And I think it was a good send off into what this year is going to be, because this year is going to be all about taking this band on the road, and we're really trying to ink our first national tour this year, and we really want to do it up and get this record out there.
Hmm. And speaking again about Michael Rosen, I mean, what's it like working with that guy?
It was amazing. I mean, because the guy has worked with a lot of my heroes, and so I started working with him when I was 19, and so when we stepped in the room
Wow.
together, I was just like, there was definitely some like stars in the eyes, because I'm like, here's this great producer extraordinaire, but after working with him, like he basically turned into family. Like by the end of the session, we called him Miggity Mike, Miggity Mike, Miggity Mike Rosen, and like we were just on a different level with him and his whole team. And that's a guy that really believed in the project, and um, I learned a lot about just music and songwriting and arrangements and being the best performer I could be. So he really was like the perfect coach.
So as you felt more comfortable getting used to his process and how he likes to, you know, he's worked with the greats. He's worked with anyone from like Eddie Money, Journey, Santana, and like getting used to that, where you like, this is going to be a challenge, but I know I have a sincere person and like a guy with like a decent head on his shoulders on our side.
Definitely. And, it really instilled confidence in me because not only was it crazy working with the guy who did that, but I mean, some of the players on the album, we had a lineup change in the middle of the record. And so Rosen brought in some cats to play. Yeah, he brought in Jim Bogus from the Counting Crows. He played
Whoa.
on the album. We brought in Jeff Campitelli, who played on actually 3 tracks on the record. He was a longtime drummer for Joe Satriani and the G3 tours, and he came in and played on the album. And Michael Urbano from Smash Mouth, hey now you're a rock star.
Yeah,
He
wow. That's
he
gotta be
he.
like I know, like you're probably like when that happened, you're like, what? You worked with
I
him
definitely,
and
I
that guy
definitely
and
had
that
their,
guy?
I definitely got their autograph. But it was crazy though because working with guys like that, again, absolute idols. But to be in the room and we're just working together, and Rosen was like, no, like we're all peers here, and that was confidence building because I was like,
That kind of humbled you in the way, like, okay, now I know that I can get out of that starry-eyed mood and get serious. But
yeah,
at the same time I won't like get distracted. That kind
yeah,
of thing.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, there's no other way to say it. It must have like blown you away either way.
Definitely, and I have some handwritten charts from Campitelli on their songs that I just keep framed because like I'll remember that stuff for forever.
Oh yeah, so like bringing it all front and center, like what have you learned after making this full-length album, and do you have more in the works?
Yeah, well, the thing I learned is that making an album's fucking hard.
Good album,
But
a good album, a solid album.
I learned to really see a process all the way through, and we're not anywhere near done. I mean, the record just came out. We're gonna be grinding the promotion of this record for the next year. People can expect another release from us. I can't exactly say what that's gonna be, but we will have some new music out in the next 6 months. We're currently working on some new material for a follow up. Some really fun dancey songs. It's gonna hit perfect in the summertime for all your summertime drinking and dancing.
Awesome, man. And again, wrapping this up, what have you learned most about yourself, not only as a musician, but as a person throughout this process and putting your career in perspective?
Good question, brother. I think I mean the thing that I've kind of known the whole time, but really came through making the album was that to make it in this business, there's a lot of personal sacrifice, and there was a lot of personal sacrifice that we all made, but and that I made in particular on the record. Cutting people out of your life that don't need to be there, taking out bad influences. I mean, I was working 3 jobs at one point to help pay for studio
Jesus.
time, and it. But seeing it through, I think I learned that I got a lot more in the tank than people might realize, and for every minute that someone's sleeping, I'm out there working. I'm gonna come get you.
Last question. Anything you'd like to say to your fans?
I'd love to say to our fans, I love you guys, and this music we make it's for you. So we have those hard times, you have those hard times. Put on the record and forget about it for a little bit and come to a show.